So back when Atomos announced the Ninja V Plus, they said that it would be able to do 8K ProRes RAW recording with the Canon R5 at some point later on in the year. Well, yesterday they released the firmware that enables us to do just that. So of course, we wanted to make sure we tried it out straight away. The actual firmware in question is version 1.4 for the Canon R5 and Atom OS 10.68 for the Ninja V Plus. This enables a RAW output over the camera's HDMI port in either 8K when using the full sensor or 5K when cropped in. To enable it, all you have to do is head to the menus on the R5 and toggle HDMI RAW output to on. This blocks all other recorder options and gives you the choice of options for the internal recording, either full data rate IPB or compressed IPB Lite. When you're recording internally at the same time as the RAW output, you are going to be limited by the 29-minute record limit of the R5, but if you enable the standby low res mode on the R5 and toggle recording on just the Ninja V, then you have no record limit at all. So when we first saw these firmware updates, we were of course itching to try them out, but there was two main questions which I really wanted to make sure that I answered. The first one was, does the quality of this external 8K ProRes RAW recording match the quality of the internal RAW recording in 8K, which we've known from the R5? And the second one was, does the camera of course still overheat when it's externally outputting RAW like this? Because if it doesn't overheat anymore, and the quality matches that internal 8K RAW recording, the R5 suddenly becomes a very interesting prospect for video users indeed. The quality of that internal 8K RAW that the R5 is already capable of doing is breathtakingly good, but of course it has that overheating issues. But the quality is fantastic. It easily matches some of the best cinema cameras out there on the market for image quality. When putting the two flavors of RAW side by side, the external 8K ProRes RAW and the internal 8K Canon RAW, the results are really quite impressive. It's quite hard to tell them apart. The detail on both looks fantastic. There is noise in both, but that's easy to clean up in noise reduction. That's very common when working with RAW. I would say both look just as good as each other, which means the 8K ProRes RAW sent to the Ninja V Plus is just as good a quality as the 8K which you can record internally. So that was my first question on video quality, but what about overheating? Well, we've used this combination out and about now for a couple of hours without running into any issues, but a real life test like this only tells us so much. I mean, there is so many different variables at play here. So before we came out, we made sure to do a few more controlled tests in the showroom. We set the camera up with a battery grip on it and the Ninja V Plus plugged into the mains, and then started recording by just hitting record on the Ninja rather than on the camera as well, because that avoids the record time limits. With our first test, we actually had to stop it early because it filled up our 500GB SSD we were using in only 28 minutes, but without any sign of overheating. So we then went to grab a 1TB SSD to have the two of them. We kept the camera off for an hour in order to let it cool down and restarted the test. It filled up the 1TB SSD in 51 minutes, so we changed the 500GB SSD again and carried on recording. It filled that up, so we changed the 1TB SSD again, and then of course the batteries died. So by the 1 hour 34 minute mark, it had actually drained two Canon LPE6 batteries, filled over 1.5 terabytes of storage, and was still rolling with no sign of that overheating warning, which I've got to say was a surprise. So overall, I am hugely impressed by this firmware update. I mean, I'm sure people will put the camera through much more comprehensive and scientific overheating tests over time, but for me, this hugely improves the value of the R5 for video production. I mean, the R5 was already a fantastic camera for video work, it has to be said. I mean, it's a camera that we've used a huge amount on this channel over the last year or so for B-roll, for stills particularly, but also for piece to cameras out and about like this one right now. And the amount that the camera has been able to do without overheating has got better and better over time with firmware updates. That has got to be said. But the fact of the matter is that the maximum record quality that you could do with the R5 in video without running into any overheating at all was significantly lower than the maximum record quality that the camera could do. And that did put people off. It frustrated customers that already had the camera, and it has stopped people from picking one of these up. Now, with this firmware update, I think this dramatically changes things. It gives us an option at both ends of the scale. You have the normal internal 4K recording for the normal projects, and then for anything higher end, you have this external 8K ProRes RAW option with minimal overheating. I mean, we haven't done enough tests here to guarantee that you're never going to run into overheating issues. I mean, look around, we're hardly in the Florida like sunshine, are we? But this is a huge improvement over what the camera can do currently, and I think it really makes this combination a very interesting prospect for high-end video work. If you want to buy either of these for yourself, of course, just head over to proav.co.uk. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions at all, just leave them in the comment section down below.